Okay, guys, so today's topic is dating a feminist, specifically a male feminist. And I think before we go into the articles I found for today, we should take a look at some definitions, or at least get a clear understanding of what feminism is. So to that end, I thought I'd find an article, and I can't think of a better source than Vox, which is basically Fox News for far-left progressives. And the article I found is entitled "The Waves of Feminism and Why People Keep Fighting Over Them, Explained." And the article starts off going, if one thing's for sure, it's that second wave feminists are at war with the third wave feminists. No, wait, the second wavers are at war with the fourth wave feminists. No, it's the second wavers, it's the Gen Xers. Are we still cool with the first wavers? Are they all racist now? Is there actually integrational fighting about feminist waves? Is that really a thing? Do we even use the wave metaphor anymore? I don't know. So I guess there's a lot of confusion about what feminism really means. So that's what this article is trying to explain. And it goes on to say, as the hashtag Me movement barrels forward, as record numbers of women seek office, and as the Women's March drives the resistance against the Trump administration, feminism is reaching a level of cultural relevance it hasn't enjoyed in years. It's now a major object of cultural discourse, which has led to some very confusing conversations, because not everyone is familiar with or agrees on the basic terminology of feminism. And one of the most basic and confusing terms has to do with the waves of feminism. Now, part of that, the beginning of that, specifically talking about the Women's March and Trump, kind of causes some problems there, because I know we have two basic premises here in the modern feminist movement. One, feminism good, and two, Trump bad. So that leads to some confusion, saying that the Trump administration is bringing about a stronger dialogue with regards to feminism and bringing it more cultural relevance. Does not compute. Trump bad, feminism good. How can the Trump presidency be bringing about more of a discourse when it comes to feminism? But let's keep moving on anyway. And we're not going to delve into too much detail here. A lot of this talks about, why the whole wave description became useful. But let's skip ahead to where they actually describe the different waves of feminism. So let's skip to the first wave, 1848 to 1920. And we're not going to read the actual descriptions because I think most Americans, any American who has spent any time in a public school or any kind of a history class understands even that date range, 1848 to 1920. And it's basically the lead up to women getting the right to vote. And that's why they have, the picture they have here is of a couple of classy ladies marching circa 1900, protesting, looking for the right to vote. And a couple of things they don't mention in this description is the fact that it was mainly men that obviously ratified the legislation that gave women the right to vote, but it was men pushing this movement too. They don't mention the fact that a lot of women were actually opposed to the right to vote because they assumed it would entail a lot of, at the time, male duties, things like signing up for the draft or signing up for bucket duty, which was kind of volunteer fireman duties at the time. And they assumed the right to vote would entail those duties. So they don't talk about that at all. Another thing they don't talk about is I think we all kind of have our own views of this sort of stereotypical feminist of today. The blue-haired feminist talking about, not slut-shaming or body-shaming. But if you look at the picture in this article, these are classy ladies. These are ladies that probably you would not see at any kind of feminist rally nowadays. They're dressed very nicely, they have hats on, they're marching respectfully, they're not yelling or shouting. These are women these are the women you'd want as, your daughters, your friends, your sisters, your mother. These are women you wouldn't be able to disagree with these women because they're marching rationally and reasonably. These are respectful women. A little bit different from what we see nowadays, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think we all know that's basically the basic tenet of the first wave of feminism is basically that first cocoon of giving women equal rights to men, that the cocoon of feminism waiting to emerge as the butterfly of equality. And I don't think there's a man in the world that would go, no, I don't like that. You know, pretty much any man in the world will go, yeah, I think that's great that women should have the right to vote. That's cool. I'm all for that. So let's skip ahead to the next part of the article. The second wave, 1963 to the 1980s. And I think I don't need to go into this description as well, because most of us also know what that is. You know, it's the sexual revolution, the hippies, women burning their bras and all that jazz. Basically, the first anti-slut shame people. And I think most men would be fine with that as well. And the picture here is women marching with a sign that says "Free abortion on demand, no forced sterilization." And I don't think there's a man alive that would go, oh, screw that. No, I don't like abortion. I don't like sterilization. I'm all for sterilization. So up until that point, yeah, feminism is not only acceptable, it's a great thing. That's cool. Most men are totally down for that. So let's skip ahead to the next section. And she goes, the third wave, 1991, question mark, to question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. It's almost impossible to talk with any clarity about the third wave because few people agree on exactly what the third wave is, when it started, or if it's still going on. The confusion surrounding what constitutes the third wave feminism, writes feminist scholar Elizabeth Evans, is in some respect its defining feature. But generally the beginning of the third wave is pegged to two things: the Anita Hill case in 1991 and the emergence of the riot girl groups in the music scene in the 1990s. So a lot of what she talks about here is feminist punk rock groups that I'm not that familiar with, so I can't speak too intelligently on that subject. But they talk about that. They also go into Roe v. Wade, another thing that most men would probably be totally fine with. Yeah, I'm 100% pro-choice. I'm all for that. They also go into race a little bit, and that's where you kind of notice the ideological slant to this article as well, because, you can't just, have a feminist article. You have to go into intersectionality and all that jazz. But they end by saying, the third wave was a diffuse movement without a central goal, and as such, there's no single piece of legislation or major social change that belongs to the third wave the way the 19th Amendment belongs to the first wave, or Roe v. Wade belongs to the second. Depending on how you count the waves, that might be changing now as the hashtag Me Too movement develops with no signs of stopping, or we might be kicking off an entirely new wave. And then they jump to the present day. A fourth wave, question mark? But most people are going, hold on there. Did we forget something? It sounds like something's lacking. Did we forget a defining feature to that movement? Let's see.
So why do you love your friend this racist fucking male that doesn't stand for women's rights? Get the fuck out of here.
No, you need to get out. You need to get out.
No, I don't.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here? I need some muscle over here.
Bitch, I'm not gonna hit you. I'm right here, but I'm not gonna fucking hit you. Shut the fuck up for a second. Feminists do not want you to lose custody of your children.
Oh, that's right. The transition from sensible, well-meaning progress towards fairness and gender equality to the shrill, inconsistent, man-hating, sexist, so-called feminists of today. The women interested in tearing down every oppressive aspect of traditional female gender roles while being all too happy to turn a blind eye to outdated, equally oppressive male gender roles and expectations. That's right, the feminism that believes in gender parity when it comes to cool jobs like CEO and president, but seems noticeably silent when it comes to talking about male-dominated, injury-prone careers like mining, sanitation, and manufacturing. Yeah, the feminists that believe a woman can and should have complete control over her and her partner's reproductive rights, but doesn't seem to have any complaints when it comes to accepting child support payments. Basically, the empowered modern women that can do it all and don't need no man, as long as the alimony payments are high enough. yeah, she didn't really talk about that so much. But I think we can just gloss over that for now, just the way she did. Okay, so let's take a look at the articles I found. The first one comes from Elite Daily, and it's entitled 10 Signs He's a Feminist That You Can Easily Spot by Asking These Questions. And the picture at the top is one of those Valentine's Day candy hearts that says, feminist as fuck. Except they're woke, so they don't say as fuck, they say AF because they're hip and with it. Anyways, the article goes, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Feminism is a non-negotiable requirement when it comes to my suitors, of which there are many, okay? Stop asking about it. But seriously, I could not care less about a guy's height, college major, or taste in wine. Bullshit. But not supporting equal rights? Yeah, I'd say that's a deal breaker. So I've become a bit of a pro at unearthing signs that he is a feminist by date 2 at the latest. Now, I know what you're thinking. Any modern gentleman will happily proclaim that he's an unabashed feminist and full supporter of the movement, right? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't assume that, because considering the fact that like less than a fifth of American women identify as feminists, and even fewer when it comes to countries like the UK or Australia, where I think the number's like less than 7%. I don't necessarily think that. But whatever, let's continue anyway. One would hope, she says, but as I've learned over time, not all guys are up to date on what the word feminist means, and are therefore a little hesitant to support the title with pride. Now, in case you guys need a refresher, feminism, the 2017 word of the year according to Merriam-Webster, holds two definitions, and that's probably the saddest part of this article. I know we like to make fun of traditional media like newspapers and books and dictionaries for being a little bit behind the times, but really, Merriam-Webster, that's the 2017 word of the year? Are you sure you don't mean 1967 instead of 2017? But whatever. She goes, the first definition is the theory of political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. And the second is organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. One more time for the cheap seats, the writer goes. Being a feminist means you support equal rights, plain and simple. Oh, really? Is that so? Equal rights? I think it actually means paying lip service to the idea of equal rights and equality between the sexes, but really comes out to mean supporting a jealous, misandrous narrative that women deserve everything a man has without really being forced to put in the effort to sweat equity. But whatever. She goes on to say, a couple of months ago, I was out with a guy and asked if he was a feminist. He cocked his head. I wouldn't say that. No, was his reply. Oh, so you don't think you and I are equals? I asked, accidentally knocking over his beer in the process. Or I think it was accidental at least. My response would be pretty clear. Are you going to pay for the beer you just knocked over, bitch? Oh, that's right, I paid for both of us. Never mind. But actually what he said was, oh, I didn't see that. Except he had. He just hadn't realized it. Stupid males. Stupid cisgender white males. I then dove into what can only be described as an aggressive soliloquy about what feminism truly meant, its importance, and the meaning of intersectionality, the cumulative ways in which different identities such as gender, race, and class overlap. And that's kind of where you start to see the ideological slant of this article as well. Feminism doesn't need to intersect or overlap. Whatever. She goes on to say, wow, okay. Or no, actually her date, rather, says, okay, wow. I believe in those things, was his eventual and probably fearful retort. See, she doesn't want a man. She doesn't want to date a man. She wants to date a child. That was his eventual and probably fearful retort. She doesn't want to date a man. She doesn't want someone who will stand up to themselves. She wants someone who will go, oh, okay, sorry, honey, you're right. Really what he should have said was, I guess we're not equal. While my decisions are based on logic and reason, your worldview is entirely based on feelings and, honestly, almost comically ridiculous notions of perceived inequality that really have no basis in reality. What she goes on to say, now, if you'd rather skip this lecture, because honestly, if people want to learn about feminism, they can Google it and do the hard work for themselves. I did. She goes, but you're still curious to learn what your date's views might be. I get it, and the list below might help you. Here are 10 questions you can work into a conversation to figure out whether or not the guy you're dating is really, truly a feminist. And if he's not, boy, bye. So number 1 of this pathetic list is, do you have any sisters? What's your relationship like with them? I guess that's a fair question, but it also seems kind of exclusionary. Does that mean that people that don't have sisters can't be feminist? Does that mean, if you don't have a sister or don't have, does that mean if you don't have a sister, you can't have empathy or compassion for people of different gender? I mean, it just seems a little exclusionary, but I'll accept it for the time being. And number 2, she really goes off the rails here. Have you participated in any of the marches recently? Who asked that? Who were you on a date with? Hitler? Yeah, I was at the last party rally. We were marching all day. It was wunderbar. I mean, were you crazy? And those marches, by the way, I think most people have realized how ridiculous they were. Seeing women march for rights they already have. But either way, she goes, number 3, what would you do if Oprah ran for president? This should basically be on an IQ test. I mean, these women criticize Trump for the fact that he was a reality TV star, but they go, oh yeah, Oprah, that'd be a good choice. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, she's a woman and a person of color. That's the basis for my analysis for anything. Yeah, okay, I don't need to dig deeper at all. For reference, she says, there are tons of incredible female candidates of color who I think we should all be supporting right now instead of making Oprah 2020 shirts. But the answer to this question will definitely be telling. Okay, no one raised color. I don't know what would compel you to mention that, but whatever. She goes, number 4, did you see Lady Bird? I still can't believe Greta Gerwig didn't win a Golden Globe nomination. At that point, I just say, check please, this woman is mentally unstable. Number 5, she goes, who's your favorite fictional character? I don't know, maybe Lara Croft, but Lara Croft from the old Tomb Raider games where she's still super hot and not, a prepubescent woman. Yeah, I like seeing a little jiggle when I'm playing a game. I don't know if she'd like that response, though. Number 6, who did you vote for in 2016? Obviously meaning Hillary or no one. That's all I'll accept. Anyone with a different ideological point of view is completely dead to me. I don't know. I wonder what happened if I said Jill Stein. That would probably throw her. She'd probably be a little confused. Well, she's a lady, and that's basically all I care about. But that's not the lady I wanted, so I still hate you. Number 7 is, do you like Beyonce? Yeah, not really. I don't know why you would put that in here as your basis for a feminist, someone who's basically made all the money they've made by objectifying themselves and selling sex. But you know what? These are your questions, not mine. And she goes, there's only one right answer, y'all. Meaning, hell yeah. And 8 is, what do you think of the hashtag #MeToo and hashtag Time's Up movements? Well, that depends. At the very least, it is funny to see an initially well-intentioned and altruistic movement devolve into a sexist, opportunistic witch hunt, kind of like communism. Hey, everyone should be equal. What if we started shipping everyone we disagreed with off to death camps? That'd be fun. But either way, I mean, the date would be over after the second question. But let's assume we make it to number 9, and she's running her fingers over my hand, leaning in, looking into my eyes, and goes, number 9, any books you're looking forward to reading? I can't wait to get my hands on Michelle Obama's. Really? Huh. I'm much more interested in Barack, the guy that was actually in charge, without whom Michelle would be completely unknown and unrecognizable. But, I don't know. Here are a couple suggestions. What do you think about Ayn Rand? That's a lady. She probably doesn't fit with your ideological point of view, though, so that probably doesn't count. But I'd probably go, yeah, I'll probably just reread The Art of the Deal again. I don't think she'd like that very much, but that'd probably be a pretty funny answer. But number 10 is, did you know that women couldn't get their own credit cards without a man's signature until 1974? Isn't that crazy? And to that, I'd probably go, is 1974? Is that when they came up with alimony and child support so they could just directly spend a man's money? Yeah, that makes it a lot more streamlined, doesn't it? Yeah, that makes sense. So that was that article. Take from that what you will. I did find a couple of other articles though that might be a little bit more entertaining. So let's take a look at those as well. Okay, so the next article I found actually came from Cosmo, and this one was actually a little funnier than the first one. This one's a little better because it actually has some of the questions actually have somewhat humorous answers. So the title of this article is 12 Sneaky Ways to Tell He's a Feminist. And the article is, unless you're trying to date a Matt McGorry type. I didn't know who this was, but he makes a couple appearances in the article, and that's where the article kind of goes south. But they say, unless you're trying to date a Matt McGorry type, and by Matt McGorry type, I literally mean a man who has intersectional feminists in his Twitter bio and will forever be known as the wokest bae of 2015. In other words, the biggest white knight of 2015, but whatever. It's kind of an article, that's fine. It can be hard to tell where that hottie you've been crushing on is on the male feminist, where he is on the male feminist ally spectrum. Don't worry though, because there's some foolproof signs. If he does any of these super subtle things, he's definitely a feminist, and you should definitely consider dating him. And it's kind of funny because you know that's not the type of person they're interested in, but we're just going to pretend that that's the case, that that's what all the SJWs and feminist types really want, is a real nice guy feminist type. So number one is, sometimes he asks how you're feeling. Amazing. That's kind of funny. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's almost like they're people. You know, it's almost like these men you're dating are human beings. Fair enough. And number two is, when you say the word tampon or period, he doesn't recoil or projectile vomit, because real men don't feel blood. Okay. And number three is, 1 out of every 3 times he asks how you're doing, he follows up with, but how are you really? That means he's a good listener. And number 4 is, when you offer to pay the bill, he doesn't make a whole thing out of it. Your wallet can't emasculate him. I would say for the most part, the opposite is true. Most men would honestly be shocked if they saw a woman offer to pay a bill. Most men would be shocked to see that. I would welcome that with open arms. I think most men would as well. Maybe there are a few men that would just feel emasculated by that, but I really don't think so. I think most men would literally be, most men would be really shocked to see a woman actually offer to pay the bill. Unless the date's going poorly and there's no chemistry. That's a good way to tell. If she goes, hey, this is on me. That's how you know that's the one and only date you're going to have with that person. But number 5 is, he looks at your female friends in the eye when they're speaking, almost as if they're people too. And I know that's kind of more of that's almost like a condescending, oh man, these men actually view women as people. But still, it comes across as kind of funny. You can tell there's a humorous slant to that. So I'll accept everything up to 5. That's funny. Number 6 gets a little weirder, like the first article. They go, he respects women, and he doesn't even have a little sister or anything. Give this guy a Nobel Prize. Okay, we're starting to get a little more. We're starting to get a little more patronizing here. And they actually show a tweet from that Matt McGorry type. I don't know who he is. I'm not going to bother researching, but his tweet says, when a woman asks if I'm a feminist, I say, yes, and she gets really excited. I get bummed because it's a reminder of how low the bar is set for men. That's not an attractive thing to say. And if you say that on a date, you're not going to go far. Even if they say that, you have to judge them by their actions, not their words, and that is not going to get you very far. But number 7 says, he's only honked your boobs like once, and you're pretty sure it was an accident, so who cares? And now we're getting a little silly because, I feel like most girls find that funny. You know, most guys don't honk boobs to be sexist or whatever. If you're in an actual relationship, you do that. Honk, honk. It's a funny thing. It's not a sexist thing. And most women appreciate it. They find that kind of funny. If you're actually with a girl who has a good sense of humor, they won't find that sexist. They're going to find that entertaining. Oh, you find my boobs funny. That's hilarious. Because most guys don't honk boobs to be misogynist. If you've actually been out with a girl a couple of times and you do that, it's to be entertaining. And most girls understand that. But either way, number 8 says, you've never even heard him call another a woman a slut. He would never, ever do this. He knows about double standards. And that's kind of the problem here. There's a double standard, but there's a reasoning behind it. You know, because if you're a guy, you have to talk your way into getting laid. Women don't have to do that. Okay? And if you're a woman, that's basically shooting layups. Okay? You can get laid easily. Guy, it's not the same for guys. You have to do something. You can't just be a person with a penis. That's not how men get laid. So yeah, there's a double standard, but it's for a reason. So this article is starting to devolve. And then 9 goes, last time you sighed and said, men are the worst. He patted you on the shoulder and said, I know, we really are. And she says, this counts as foreplay. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No one finds that cool or attractive. Just going, yeah, we're the worst, aren't we? I'm a nice guy. You should like me because I'm a nice guy. That doesn't work. That's not how the world works. And number 10, he always has a variety of condoms available for you to choose from. This is the sort of guy who would never spring a fire and ice condom on you without asking first. Yeah, no guy would spring no guy wants to spring a fire and ice condom, whatever that is, without asking. Most guys just want to have sex. That's it. This is irrelevant. But they have another tweet from this Matt guy, and he goes, I definitely put my male feminist sassy pants on when I got up today, which strangely look exactly like my regular pants. Go figure. Oh, wow. How natural. You're such a good feminist. Whatever. 11 is, he has at least one platonic female friend who he has not slept with. Men and women can actually be friends. It's true. Not really. That just means he wasn't able to have sex with them, and he probably still wants to, but that's okay. Let's live in this feminist alternative reality where men are women and women are men. And 12 is, you've never heard him say the word actually. It's just not in his vocabulary. Incredible. That's not in most men's vocabulary. That's just weird. That's just weird, okay? But whatever. It started out funny, but ended up being kind of weird. So let's move on to the next article. I'll talk about that now. Okay, so let's take a look at the last article from Bustle entitled 8 Signs Your Boyfriend is a Feminist. Also, congrats on that. And it begins by saying, finding a feminist partner is pretty easy if you date women, but what if you prefer your X chromosome with a little Y? Yeah, let's just assume that the normal relationships are all LGBTQ relationships. Yeah, those cisgendered relationships. If you deign to have a cisgendered relationship. Okay, let's start with that assumption. So they start by saying, despite what Fox News might tell you, some men wholeheartedly believe in women's rights and gender equality. Okay, so to help us unearth these elusive gentlemen, the Washington Post explains how to find a feminist boyfriend if you're in the market for a guy who knows the difference between Pam Grier and Germaine Greer. I don't think most feminists know what that means. I certainly don't. But they go on to say the author of the piece suggests that women first define what they mean by a feminist before taking concrete steps such as listing the word in their dating profiles or defying gender norms by asking guys out. First of all, that'll never happen. Not first of all, that's just it. That's not going to happen. That's not how male-female relations work. We've evolved to a point where that's just not how things work. But let's just continue on with her logic. And she goes, like dating in general, these things aren't always what they seem. And many men are feminists in theory, but won't tear off their work clothes Superman style to reveal a "this is what a feminist looks like" t-shirt underneath. Thank God, by the way. But she goes on to say, since our misogynistic culture doesn't always reward guys who are outspoken feminist allies, you might have to dig a little deeper. This is just as true for prospective dates as it is for men you have already been dating. So if you've been together for a while but haven't asked him what he thinks of the F word yet, here are a few signs that might reveal his true feminist colors. And this article is a lot more pathetic than the last two. The first sign is, number 1, He notices if a movie passed the Bechdel test. And the Bechdel test is basically a measure of whether or not a movie or piece of literature includes two women talking to each other about a subject other than a man. So it's so pathetic. It's so pathetic. But she describes it by going, if at the end of watching The Wolf of Wall Street or the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, or pretty much any mainstream movie, your boyfriend notices that no female characters ever speak to each other other than anything other than a man, he might be a feminist. Bonus points if he realizes that named female characters speaking to each other about something other than a man is too simple of a test to truly detect sexism and diversity in a film. But just knowing what the Bechdel test is a pretty good start. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to not get laid, is knowing something like that. And then number 2 is he isn't fazed by subverting gender stereotypes. And this is going back to the last article. Things like women paying. Yeah, most men don't have a problem with that. But her description goes, if your boyfriend thinks cooking, cleaning, or being submissive are choices as opposed to gender-determined directives, he might be a feminist. You know what? Most men start out living on their own and cook and clean on their own. That's not necessarily a female thing. And by the way, most women you meet don't cook or clean for you, so this is a moot point. But whatever, she says, if he knows that culturally inscribed ideas about masculinity and femininity can be destructive to both genders, he might be a feminist. If he isn't afraid to personally redefine what being a man is, he might be a feminist. Okay. Yeah. I'm guessing for this author and most of these feminist types, redefining gender roles means breaking down oppressive female gender roles, but basically keeping in place the idea of a male provider. So, yeah, I'm not going to cook, but yeah, why wouldn't you pay for dates? I'm kind of traditional when it comes to that. Either way, number 3 is he would consider taking male birth control. I don't need to read this description. I feel like most women are totally fine with reproductive rights being totally in control of women. If men actually had any control of what happens with regards to reproductive rights, they'd probably have a much bigger problem with that. Sorry, that's just the case. Number 4 is he already bought tickets to the Sleater-Kinney reunion tour. I don't even know what that means. I'm going to move on. 5 is he watches porn that isn't degrading. And she goes, yes, you can be a feminist and love porn. If your boyfriend watches porn where female pleasure is the main event and women's bodies aren't treated like garbage disposals, that's a good sign. This can be a tricky subject, however, because liking misogynistic porn doesn't necessarily mean you're a misogynist in real life. Sexual desire is complicated. It's a complicated, messy thing, after all. That said, if your boyfriend likes sex-positive porn or even feminist porn, you're in the money shot. And I think I actually saw a post about this on LinkedIn. I think it was actually from Virgin, either Virgin Mobile or not Virgin Mobile, but Richard Branson and the Virgin companies. They had some post about some lady starting a feminist porn movement. Yeah, that's not attractive. Women don't find that attractive. That's why most men don't end up dealing with that. That's not attractive. But whatever. Number 6 is he never reduces your feelings to hormones. If your boyfriend never describes your emotional reactions as crazy or hormonal or PMS-y, he might be a feminist. If he knows that it's your time of the month but still doesn't do it, then he is a god among men. Seriously though, men and women are both driven by a complex combination of hormones. And if your partner knows this, you've done pretty well for yourself. Yeah, women definitely aren't. Women definitely are not ruled by their hormones. Let's just agree with that. Yeah, they're all completely rational, logical beings. Number 7, he thinks your career is as important as his. If your boyfriend would be willing to move cities to help you achieve your career goals, or even if he just takes your career as serious as he takes his, I highly doubt most women take their man's career as seriously as they do theirs, but whatever. He might be a feminist. If he believes that the gender pay gap exists, okay, I'm not even going to touch that because no serious economists and even the most feminist types don't accept that as a reality, but whatever. If he accepts that the gender pay gap exists and knows how much harder women have to work to build a long-term career than men, he might be a feminist. I'm not even going to address that because the vast majority of people know that is garbage. And if he doesn't care if you make more money than he does, you're golden. Okay, that's fine. I probably wouldn't care that much if my girlfriend made more money than I did. Usually it's the woman that cares about that, though, and I'm pretty sure they'll move on to someone else. That's just dating up the dominance hierarchy, but whatever. Number 8, and the last one, he believes your sexual pleasure is a priority. Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Most guys don't have a problem with that either. Most guys are all for that. So at the end of the day, I mean, most of these writers either want a gay man or just don't want to live in reality. I mean, most of these women don't really understand what feminism is in the 21st century to begin with. They really don't want any form of equality. But here's the thing. They say they want a feminist man, but I'll bet you any money, every man they've ever shown any kind of interest in really has been the typical macho jerk. And rightfully so. You know, most men really don't start out that way. Most men want to be the nice, lovey-dovey kind of guy, you know, and treat their girl like a princess. But they realize that that's not really the way to get a girl. That's not realistic, unfortunately. You know, these women want a feminist, but at the end of the day, that's not what's attractive. And men pick up on that and learn. They want two completely incompatible types of people, and that's really a recipe for disappointment. And that's the main gist to take away from all of this.